Hello everyone and welcome back. So today I'm going to talk about the books that I bought in January. And some books that I was gifted as well. There's one of those out of the 15. Yeah. I didn't really plan on buying as many books as I did, but I ended up getting a gift card for Christmas. There was a library book sale. And, the universe all collided to the point where I ended up with 15 books by the end of January. I will say that is not the norm, and I probably won't be doing monthly book hauls because I do not buy that many books in 1 month normally. So I plan on doing book hauls every 2 to 3 months so that I have a bit of a stack instead of just like 3 or 4. And like I said, there's 15. So get a drink, get a snack, relax, and listen to me ramble about these books. I am going to split it up kind of based on where I got them. So based on, did I get it from a library, a thrift store, a subscription box, was it gifted, and did I get it from like a big bookstore kind of deal. Alright, so I'm going to start off with the books that I bought at a library book sale. So my library was having 75% off for a full week, and I went in there and ended up finding 4 books. Yeah. So 3 of the books are about writing. I started writing a story for NaNoWriMo in November. I tried to pants it. It did not go well. I felt I didn't really know where I was going, what I wanted to do, and when I saw these were actually like right next to one another. So we have The Art of Storytelling by Marsh Cassidy, which I'm not 100% sure if this is about writing storytelling, or acting storytelling, plays, that kind of deal. But either way, I was willing to take a look at it. The next one is Making a Good Writer Great, and this is by Linda Seeger. And then I have A Story is a Promise in the Spirit of Storytelling by Bill Johnson. And because everything was 75% off, I figured I would pick these up and see if they can help me flesh out my story more, because I do want to do Nano again this November, and ultimately I do want to start really writing and creating stories, because I have them all in my head. I'm very much of an introvert. That's all in my head. I create these ideas, but rarely do I put them down on paper or, make art out of it or anything like that. And something that I want to do, especially in 2020, but going forward, is to really unlock that creativity and see what I can do with it. So I'm hoping these 3 will help. And the other book that I got from the library is actually a fantasy. This is The Tongues of Serpents by Naomi Novik, and this is part of the Temeraire series. This is a series that Naomi Novik did early on in her writing career. This was before she did Uprooted or Spinning Silver. So this is set in England, or at least the United Kingdom, during the Napoleonic Wars, but it has a fantasy elements because instead of an air force, they have dragons and dragon riders. Yeah. And this is not the first book in the series. This is not even the second book. This is the 6th book in the series, and before I picked this up, I had not read any of it, the series. I had only heard about it and wanted to pick it up. And I know that sounds a little weird. Why would you pick up the sixth book in a series that you haven't even read? And I did actually see this book before the library book sale was going on, and I was like, I'm not going to pick this book up because I haven't read it, don't know if I would even like it, and someone else who's read the series would probably be very happy to find a hardcover for the series. So I didn't pick it up. But then the library book sale happened, and this was still sitting there. I even came after work, and it was still there. And I was like, you know what? I will pick you up. But I have to read the first in the series this month. And spoiler alert, I did read His Majesty's Dragon, that is the first book in the Tamara series, and absolutely loved it. And I'm so glad I have this one because the hardbacks, oh my goodness, they're expensive. So I am very glad that I ended up picking this up, but it was very much a gamble and not something I normally do. And that was the last from the library book sale. I didn't really find too many other books that I was interested in, sadly. But 4 books is pretty good. And again, it was 70% off, and they were already like $3 to $2 anyways. So, and I gave back to my library. Not too bad about that. Now, next up, I have the books that I got from Goodwill. I do like getting my books from like thrift stores, Goodwill, secondhand shops, because they're a bit cheaper, and well, they're a lot cheaper, and you know, I'm giving a book a new home. So every once in a while I like to go book shopping. And it just so happened that I decided to go to 2 different Goodwills and was able to find some stuff. I don't remember exactly which Goodwill I got which, but I ended up getting 6 books between the 2 Goodwills. So first off, I have Timeline by Michael Crichton. Now this is the same author who wrote Jurassic Park, and this is not part of the Jurassic Park series. This is something totally separate. I haven't read any of his work before, and I am always on the lookout for Jurassic Park at Goodwills and thrift shops, because I haven't read it. But I don't see them very often. I always see like Lost World, which is like the second. And when I saw this and I found out that it was a totally different, book, it's not part of it, I was intrigued. Plus it's kind of set in Arizona, which is, I'm living in Arizona right now, and I was willing to give this a try, see how his writing is. And all of the books that I picked up were like $2.50. So next up, I got Atlantis by David Gibbons. I've never read any of his books before, but this is basically an archaeologist finds basically Atlantis and like what the consequences are for this discovery. It sounded really good. I love the mythos behind Atlantis and everything like that, so I was willing to give this one a try. So next up, I found The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is a high fantasy featuring the main character Locke Lamora and his group of friends. I don't know too much about it, but I believe it was Sam from Thoughts on Tomes was talking about this series and these characters and how it had a great friendship and everything, and it sold me. So when I saw this for $2.50, I was like, you're mine. You're coming home we're trying you. And then next I found The Demigod Diaries by Rick Riordan. Now this is kind of a short, kind of miscellaneous book. Like it has a bunch of like different never told stories, short stories. There's some character cards in here, and this is following the Percy Jackson group along with the Roman children as well. So it's Percy Jackson and the Heroes of Olympus. All of those characters are included in here. I've read the Percy Jackson series. I've yet to read the Heroes of Olympus, so I can't read this just yet, but I love that series, and I always I'm always on the lookout for any Rick Riordan books or Rick Riordan Presents, which is kind of the publishing where there's a bunch of other middle grade. And if I find something, I pick it up. So next, I found The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. Now, this is like a fairly new middle grade fantasy, and I was actually really excited to see it in such great condition at a Goodwill. And this story follows this girl who, in her village, they have this witch, and as a result, they sacrifice one child, so they leave a baby out into the woods to hope that the witch leaves them alone. And the witch is just like, this town is awful, they just leave their children in the woods, I'm going to take them to a better place where I know that they can be cared for. And one of the children, through circumstances, ends up having abilities, so the witch actually keeps her and raises her, and that is our main character. And I believe further into the story, there is a boy from the village who decides he is going to rid the village of this witch, and I can foresee the conflict between the boy and our main character, and I can't wait to read this. Sounds really, really good. And then the last book that I got from the Goodwill is called Monster by Frank Peretti. Now, I've never read anything by Frank Peretti before, but essentially this city couple goes camping in the woods and something takes his wife. And it's this creature, the monster. And it just sounded like such a good horror and forest and all the dangerous woods story. And I saw that there's he has a couple other books too that are kind of with it in this series, so I believe that these are legit monsters and not people who are monsters, you know? So I picked this up because I do like a little bit of horror every once in a while. And that was it for the Goodwill haul. Now, I did get one book in a book subscription box. I subscribed to the Unicorn Crate January box, and what came in the box was Rogue Princess by B.R. Myers. I read that as B.B. Myers for a minute. I was like, oh, no. So B.R. Myers, Rogue Princess. This is a retelling of Cinderella, but it is gender swap and it is sci-fi. And essentially, this princess runs away from an arranged marriage, steals a spaceship. Come to find out, someone else, this rogue, was on the spaceship trying to steal it too, but he ends up, being essentially kind of kidnapped by the princess on accident, and there's a conspiracy, and I cannot wait to see how this is done, because Cinderella retelling, sci-fi, sounds pretty good. And the box itself was powerful princesses, so I'm looking forward to it. I didn't know what was going to be in the box when I subscribed to it, so this was a very nice surprise. Now, I did have one book that was gifted to me, and that was Winnie the Pooh on Success by Roger E. Allen and Stephen D. Allen. Now, again, spoiler alert, I actually read this book in January and absolutely loved it. I saw this at the library and I picked it up, just checked it out of the library. It's not something I bought. And I was curious. How are they going to do essentially like teaching how to set goals and everything with Winnie the Pooh? I was a little skeptic, and that's why I wanted to read it to see how it was done, and I thought it was done very well. I love Winnie the Pooh. I grew up with it, so it had a nostalgic feel to it, and essentially what I loved, what they did with it, and a little bit of spoiler, was that essentially these authors were the stranger teaching Winnie the Pooh and the gang what success means and how you can achieve it. And it felt like you were reading a Winnie the Pooh adventure. And I was gushing about this to my family, and I was like, hey, this is actually pretty good. And my mom found it for like $2, and she bought it and sent it to me. So this is my physical copy, and I'm so excited because now I can actually annotate. And yeah, I am gushing about it now, but I'm definitely going to be gushing about it in my wrap up. So yeah, this was a very, very nice gift. And then the last set are 3 books that I bought from Barnes & Noble. So I had a gift card from Barnes & Noble. So I decided to purchase the duologies for 2 series that I read the first book in 2019 and really loved and wanted to have the, last book. And again, you're like, well, you got a duology, right? There's only 3 books. That's because one of the books I had to pre-order because it's not out yet. So, I read Forest of a Thousand Lanterns by Julie C. Dow and absolutely loved it. This was 4 stars. This is the Evil Queen retelling in an Asian fantasy. And I bought the sequel, which is A Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix, which this one follows the Snow White character. I have yet to read this one and plan on reading it. And I'm so glad I was able to get these duologies, especially in this print, because I just love it. So beautiful. And then the second duology that I bought was Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, and I did buy the sequel, which is Unravel the Dusk, but that doesn't come out until July, so you will see that when I do that book haul. But essentially, Spin the Dawn is about, kind of has a little bit of Mulan elements, kind of has a little bit of Project Runway elements, and our main character, her family is a family of tailors, and she lives in a world where women aren't really supposed to have a profession. They're supposed to be wives, and that's about it. But, hard times fall on her family, and she's actually been the one tailoring for her family, and they get a royal summons to do this tailor contest to find out who will be the next royal tailor. And, no one in her family really can go, so she dresses up and pretends to be her brother and goes in his place. And then when she gets there, she has to do all these different trials to win this contest. So that's how you can see a little bit of the Mulan, a little bit of Project Runway, but overall it is an epic fantasy that I absolutely loved, and I cannot wait for the sequel. So that was a lot of books. If you guys made it through the end, thank you so much for watching. I do want to know, have you guys read any of these books, or do you have any of these books? So please comment down below. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day.